Hey everybody, welcome. Hopefully you're having an awesome day. I know I am. I got just Jason Keto with me. So Jason's here. Going to talk a little bit about the world of health and fitness and all kinds of other good stuff, life in general. Hopefully everybody's doing an awesome, or having an awesome day. We actually have an air show here in town, so I got all the windows and stuff. I had to close them because of the noise. So
yeah, those air shows can get pretty loud, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, it should be just about over with, but yeah. But welcome. I appreciate you coming on and joining me today.
Yeah, for sure.
So, maybe you could tell. I'm not sure everybody knows you or not, but could you tell me a little about yourself, or tell them a little bit about yourself and your journey? And
yeah, for sure. Yeah, as Alan was saying, my name's Jason. I'm 52 now. Basically started keto back in January 1st, 2019. So it's just been a little over 4 years since I started. It was going back, I was been pretty active as, a teenager, and when I was younger, played a lot of sports and was pretty healthy most of my life, I guess, until I got into my 30s. I guess it was I started seeing some health issues that I was having with digestion and little other things like sore joints, sore back, sore knees. I competed in judo when I was younger for quite a few years, and that's pretty hard on your knees and your back. And I was really starting to feel that it was really causing a lot of issues. And then my first grandson was born in 2017. So, after, at first, obviously he's young enough. He's not walking around or running or anything, but after a couple of years, so by 2019, he was pretty active, and, I've been trying to lose weight here and there, doing the typical, eating less and going to the gym, and, but still I was eating mostly, carbs and lean meats, but I could never really sustain that. So it got to the point where, my grandson was running around and, wanted me to play with him all the time. And it was getting hard for me to get down and play with him or then, once I get down to play with him, getting back up with my sore knees and everything, it was just getting really difficult to keep up with him. So, I guess it was sort of around Christmas of 2018 that I started sort of trying to think of other ways I could change my health, I guess. And that's when I started seeing a lot of things online about keto. Specifically, I think probably one of the first people I saw a lot from was Thomas DeLauer. And then what sort of tipped it was on Boxing Day of 2018, we went to a family gathering, and my one cousin, I hadn't seen her for a few years, but she was there, and she had lost a lot of weight, and so I got talking to her about what she had done, and she said she'd been keto for a year. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, obviously this can have some results. So that was Boxing Day of 2018. So I went home that night, and it was funny. Me and my wife took our grandson to this gathering, just by himself. His mother didn't come with him because we wanted my family to meet him. And this was just when he was starting to walk and, wanted to be doing everything. And all night I was trying to watch him and make sure he didn't get hurt and everything, but it just wore me right out. So by, I went home and started doing some more research, and basically spent the next week online watching every video I could find about keto. And so by January 1st of 2019, so about a week later, I had made the decision, well, I'm just going to go for it and start wherever I could. I basically went out and bought everything I thought I needed, like the bacon and eggs and some ground beef and everything else. And then it was, for me, I'm not a sort of start slowly kind of person. I don't have that mentality. It was, I'm going to pick a date and this is when I'm going to start. And so basically I started that January 1st, even though I know it's kind of cliche to say, it's as a New Year's resolution and everything, but I figured, why not? I might as well just start that day. And then, so basically haven't really looked back much over the last 4 years. Started out about 200 I weighed myself when I started that day, and I was 278 pounds, which I guess in the ultimately I wasn't, extremely overweight for my size. I'm 6 foot and everything else, but I was still it had enough weight to get to lose for sure. So I started there, started the typical, weighing myself every day, and I was checking ketones, doing all the things that I heard online that people were saying you should be doing. And I saw some pretty quick results, I guess, especially in the way I felt with my joints and everything. And, and then, so basically between that January 1st and then the next January 1st, I lost about 80 pounds, got down under 200 pounds for the first time in decades, basically. And then basically at that point is when my real sort of journey of, I guess, learning more about health started. I had gone through the actual weight loss, and then I think is when the real work starts to try and figure out how to maintain it and optimize health based on what you're eating, when you're eating. Instead of just doing the keto thing, you're actually doing a lot more education and trying to figure out the finer points of it.
Yeah. So I wanted to say, Bubbles is in here. Hi, how are you? Thank you for joining. Hyla's in here. Thank you for coming by and joining us. Keto Granny's here as well. And also Mrs. Perfectly Imperfect Keto is here as well. Or she was. I'm not sure she's still here or not. But welcome. So I appreciate you stopping by. So tell me a little bit when you first started out, what was the kind of the diet like, or what was your kind of your eating pattern? And
it's hard to, because really all I did, I guess, is I didn't necessarily change a lot. I guess I just basically cut out the sugar and like the processed carbs, basically. I was, like I say, I started having a lot of digestive issues when I was in my 30s. So I've been working on trying to sort that out for a long time. And, 4 or 5 years before I went keto, I actually started being pretty strict with cutting out gluten from my diet because I found that gluten really, caused a lot of issues. So I actually sort of think that helped me go keto because I didn't have to give up like the bread and the pasta and all that, because ultimately I'd already given that up for a few years. Now I had to give up the rice and the potatoes, which I had replaced bread with, but I didn't have the attachment with that kind of starch that I, might have had with bread and pasta and everything else if I hadn't given it up already. So basically I just, kept eating the way I was, but I cut out all of the processed crap that I was eating all the time.
Yeah. All right.
Like my wife isn't keto. She didn't start this with me. So there's kind of a balance of us eating together, but so basically we just eat the same thing every night, except that she'll have, sometimes she'll have potatoes or pasta or whatever, and then I'll just eat the protein or whatever in a salad. And that's sort of that's even really the way it started.
Yeah.
I didn't really do anything specific except just to cut out the bad part of my diet.
Yeah. Now, is she still not keto, or is she?
No,
Okay.
She doesn't. Like she's not really interested in doing that. Like I'm not. I would never try to push anyone to do anything. Now, I guess by default, she doesn't eat as much of the the potatoes and the rice and everything anymore, because I don't make it for both of us, right? So I'll still on a Sunday night, if I'm barbecuing steaks or whatever and she wants potatoes, I'll still throw them on the barbecue. And so it's one of those things, I guess you have to pick your battles with, I suppose. So
yeah. No, my wife's not a keto person either, so but she'll eat most of the low carb foods that I cook. And then like I make, Keto Granny was saying what type of bread. I think she misunderstood you. I think you had said that you were eating the rice and potatoes to replace the bread.
Like I say, I had to give up bread and any kind of wheat products altogether. So like I was, even back then, I was eating the gluten-free type breads, which are mostly made with rice. Same with the pastas.
Yeah.
But what I found is once I went gluten-free, I actually put on a lot of weight, because a lot of what you're eating is carbs, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually, so I've learned to do that egg white bread, and that's actually been pretty helpful for me. So, because it's pretty close to zero carbs. So, and it's just egg whites, more or less. There's no flour in it, no wheat flour, no almond flour, no coconut flour, or anything else in it. So, so it's pretty close to zero carbs. So,
sure.
But yeah. So, did you ever track or anything? Did you total carbs or net carbs or any of that stuff, or did you just?
I guess I didn't, I didn't do anything like track in I didn't put anything in my phone or write anything down. It was sort of more of a mental tracking. I did at first probably stick to more of a net carb thing. I would sort of read labels and say, okay, well, this is so many net carbs, and I'd stick with trying to keep that under 20 or so carbs or net carbs per day. And then so like I said, that was for the first year kind of thing. The testing and all that, and kind of like I say, once you figure out what you need to do to feel good and start and continue your weight loss journey or feeling better, it just I find it turned into more of a intuition as far as that kind of thing went.
Yeah. Well, as long as it worked for you, right?
Yeah.
So I know I'm kind of more on the other side, where I kind of track. I track, but I track when I think I'm having issues, and then once I think I've resolved them, I kind of slack off tracking, and then I'll only start tracking again if I'm. And I have been doing it lately just because it's part of, trying to make it part of the videos, and I've also been struggling a little bit. So I want to try to lose a couple more pounds and stuff like that. So, but
absolutely. And I think it's a great tool to, it can keep you on track. Like you say, if things are sort of going off the rails and, you find yourself, even if you're not gaining weight, but you're not losing weight, or, you know, things aren't feeling right, then tracking can definitely get you back on the right pathway.
Yeah. I know Miss Perfectly said that the egg life wraps and the cloud bread has been a great option for the kiddos. So trying to cut some of the kids. I know I use the egg life wraps as well. I'm not sure if they're readily available in Canada. I don't know. Somebody had told me they are not, so I'm not sure. The egg life wraps.
I don't think I've seen the egg life wraps. You know, everything you basically see here is any kind of substitute like that is typically like an almond flour kind of product. Which I've tried to, you know, at first, again, I was one of these, I tried a lot of different, you know, baking recipes. You know, I was following people like Keto Connect and channels like that, and they were making all these fat bombs and muffins and mug cakes and all that. So I did all that in the first 6 months or so, but after a while, it kind of got to the point where it really wasn't helping anything. So I eventually just cut that out as well.
All right. Yeah, and so now, kind of, are you eating more of a carnivore, ketovore-ish type of diet? Eat a lot of meats, vegetables type of meals, or are you eating some?
Yeah. Ultimately, I would probably say I'm more ketovore than anything. I wouldn't label it as carnivore by any means. You know, like tonight, we had omelets for dinner tonight, and we had had mushrooms in it and things like that. So I'm not against having that or having salad once in a while. And quite often, most times when I make supper, I'll make a vegetable with it. You know, I don't eat a lot of vegetables, but you would definitely, if I was to categorize it at all, it would be a sort of a meat heavy ketovore diet. Because that's just, you know, and again, that's just the way I feel the best right now.
All right.
Yeah.
So what's some of the benefits that you've experienced since in the last 4 years since doing keto? So,
well, I think the biggest thing is, like I say, the reason I really started is because of all the pain I had in my knees and my back and everything else. It was a constant thing, and I had plantar fasciitis in one of my feet that, you know, I could barely walk at times. And I think that was the biggest change. You know, like, obviously when you drop, you know, almost a third of your body weight, well, then the benefits of that are pretty big. But when you get rid of all the inflammation that you have in your joints, that's been the biggest thing, I think, for me, is that, you know, I'll do some work, like, let's say I'm doing some work around the house, or, you know, this last summer I moved, I don't know, I think it was 4 yards of river rock around the house. Like, so there's 2 big loads of stone that I, you know, had to wheelbarrow into my backyard in a weekend.
Yeah.
Usually that would have, you know, I would have been sore from that for a couple of weeks kind of thing before, but now I still get sore, and, you know, your back gets sore from doing things, but I find now I'm typically recovered and ready to go again in a day or two. So I think that's been the biggest thing. And obviously, and also, you know, like, my grandkids I have 2 grandsons now, and, you know, my first grandson's 5, and we just spent the weekend with them last weekend, and, you know, it's basically go nonstop while they're awake. And, you know, I couldn't have done that before keto, but now it's, you know, I find the energy is just always there now.
Yeah. Yeah. My wife keeps telling me how I lost 20 years, you know, it really made me 20 years younger. So, you know, in a lot of different ways. It's just, you know, the energy level, you know, she says, you know, she's 15 years younger than me, then she has a hard time keeping up with me now. So, So
Yeah,
which is a
and
great day.
I feel the same way too. You know, like I've since I started, every year I do feel younger. You know, like
Yeah,
it's um now again, I don't know how long that's going to last. Hopefully, you know, it's
yeah,
something that continues to last, but
yeah,
it definitely is something that can reverse how you feel as far as your age goes.
yeah. So Miss Perfectly saying that the natural flavorings is something that makes her kind of stay away from the egg life wrap. So I
Hmm.
found you can actually make them yourself. All it is just egg whites and xanthan gum, and I'm sure that
Hmm.
you can find a substitute for the xanthan gum if you can't find them and you want to make them in your house. They're not hard to make, so that way you're
Hmm.
controlling what's in them, and then you can put your own seasoning and or whatever else in them. And she's also talking about her favorite thing is the non-scale victories is about being free of the pain. So great job, Jason. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, and
I totally
that's
agree.
the
I had that. I'm in my 60s, so for me, the arthritis in my hands, my knees.
mhm.
I had a shoulder that I had a tough time when I was sleeping. I couldn't lay on that side of my body. That's all gone. Um, it's just kind of feel like I'm, like I say, a lot younger now and a lot better shape and everything else. And so, have you ever you talked a little bit about being gluten free for a little while. You've done any of the other paleo or Weight Watchers or any of the
No,
other diet?
no. The only, like I said, that I was gluten free mainly because of
Yeah.
the way that gluten made me feel. That wasn't sort of something to do as a diet per se. The only thing I did
Yeah.
before that was the bro type diets where you're eating a lot of rice and potatoes and chicken breasts and
Yeah.
lower calories and more exercise and stuff like that. And it worked a little bit,
Yeah.
but it wasn't something that I felt any better doing. So it's one of those things where you can see why it fails is because it doesn't really help you, or it didn't help me feel better. Like going to the gym and all that. It did, you know,
Yeah.
working out is good for feeling good, but if you don't really change your diet, and and if you're trying to stick with a diet that doesn't satisfy your lifestyle, it's pretty hard to stick with.
Yeah. Now, are you exercising now at all?
I don't specifically exercise. I want to get into doing more structured exercising. Thankfully, with my job, and I'm up and down ladders all day and walking all day now,
Oh,
and I do enough physical work at work
yeah.
for my
Yeah.
job that thankfully that keeps me, somewhat in shape. I do want to get back into doing some resistance training.
Yeah.
That's one thing I've been thinking about doing, especially for the channel, is doing some resistance band training and getting into some more mobility stuff too. Because I think even though the inflammation is gone in my joints and everything, I think it's still important to get some resistance training and the mobility to keep yourself able to keep up with the world, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm more of a because I sit behind the desk most of the time, so I don't really
Mm.
get a whole lot of physical activity. So I gotta do something to keep moving, or you know, or I would probably, I guess the diet has really it worked without me doing a whole lot of exercise. The whole keto lifestyle has really helped me, and then it had helped me to get me moving again and get me back working out and stuff. So, like I said, I sit behind a desk most of the time, so I don't get a lot of physical activity like you do. So you got to do something to
Yeah,
go for walks at lunchtime. And
for sure. I do think it's important to get some sort of physical activity. Like if you aren't forced to do it for a job or anything, you need to keep doing anything. Like you say, a walk, does wonders for
yeah,
for physical part, for mental clarity and everything else. You know, if you can get out at lunch or whatever and go for a walk, it can definitely be a big benefit.
Yeah. So what are some of your favorite keto foods?
Keto foods, yeah. I don't know. I'm pretty boring when it comes to the food I eat. You know, like I'm a burger, and you know, I'll eat burgers quite often, and a lot of times I'll fry up eggs and put them on there too, and bacon, steaks. You know, I eat a lot of ground beef. Thankfully, there's a local butcher 5 minutes down the road where I can get, you know, I can get beef right off the farm, kind of thing. So I just buy, you know, every week they sell packaged 1 pound balls of ground beef that, you know, if I need something to make for supper, I'll cook that up. And so it's basically that kind of thing. You know, obviously if you've watched my channel at all in the last year, chaffles are something that I try a lot of times to make some different things, not only for the channel, but for myself. You know, it's nice to have some kind of variety, I guess. Yeah. And I find chaffles are an easy way to do that, because the base part of a chaffle is just, you know, it's just cheese and eggs. So as long as you can handle those things, it's a good start. Yeah.
Yeah. Isla's saying she eats burgers twice a day.
Yeah.
I kind of go on those kicks. Go ahead.
I had burgers for lunch too. I had burgers and fried eggs for lunch, and then I had omelet for supper. So I had my fill of eggs today. That's for sure.
Yeah, I can say I kind of go on those kicks where I eat the same thing for a few weeks, and then I'll kind of change it a little bit, and I'll try something else, and I'll say, oh, this is good, and I'll eat that for the next couple of weeks. And so kind of. Now, do you eat a lot of keto sweets, or do you eat any keto sweets or anything? Or
I try not too much. You know, like I'm not going to say that I don't ever. You know, if I'm once in a while, if I'm at some place that sells, you know, the any kind of like we have a company here in Canada. I'm not sure if they're in the US yet, but it's called the No Sugar Company. So they make all sorts of different products, and they have like different kinds of bars and stuff like that. You know, I was big into when I first started, I was big into the Perfect Keto products, like their bars and their coffee creamers and stuff like that. But I find with the sweets, unfortunately, I still have a real hard time staying away from them. But like anything else, it's one of those things, the more you indulge in them, the harder it is to stay away from it.
Yeah.
So
Mike said
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, Mike just said that you can't beat a good burger, and he's right. So highly is confirming that. So tell me a little bit about these chaffles. How many different you have an idea of how many different varieties of chaffles you've made, or?
I'm not sure. Well, the videos I've made, I guess there's probably 10 or 12 different ones I've put up as videos.
Okay.
You know, it's something that I've kind of made over the last 4 years, and you know, I've used them as buns for burgers, and you know, used them as like crust for little pizzas and stuff like that. It's I don't know. I think everyone still likes chaffles. Obviously, the whole chaffle craze started a couple of years ago, before I even had a YouTube channel. So I kind of missed the boat on that one, but I don't know. I just for me, the kind of, when it winds up in a video, it's because I was at work that day thinking, you know, what would be good in a chaffle? And then I'll think, oh, well, maybe this will work. So I go home, and if I have it, I make it, or I'll go out and buy what I need and just throw it together and make a video about it. And most of the time it turns out pretty good. I have had a couple of failures that never made it, never made it onto YouTube, but it's I find it fun. You know, it's just one of those things where you can play with it and come up with some really different, crazy ideas. And, you know, like I say,
so what's your favorite? What was your favorite chaffle that you kind of?
It's hard to say. You know, I made a jalapeno popper chaffle a few months ago. So like I just sauteed some jalapenos, like fresh jalapenos, and then and with some crumbled bacon, and I put them all in the chaffle, and then sort of spread cream cheese on the top, and then ate them like that. So that was probably one of my favorite ones.
Yeah.
They're all pretty good. Like I say, it's just starting with eggs and cheese and just adding the rest of the good stuff in there. I'm not really sure you can mess them up. You know, I guess you probably could if you put things, you know, put some smoked oysters in there or something like that. That might not go over too good.
Yeah. Yeah, probably you and I wouldn't like them, but somebody else might like them. I don't know.
Oh yeah. Well, that's the thing, is there's always someone out there that'll like them.
Yeah. Now, do you get a lot of people questioning about the whole keto diet and, you know?
Not at first I did. Like I guess ultimately the only time anyone really questioned it or sort of made a big deal about it was after a year or so. I went to sort of, you know, yearly, a bunch of friends from like high school get together, because we've all moved on and moved to different cities and different countries and everything. And I remember going back to one of these things after I lost all the weight, and it was basically all I got was like, "Are you sick? Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, actually I feel better than I ever have." Right. So, you know, ultimately it's all been fairly positive.
All right.
I don't know. I personally don't really like to talk about keto so much. You know, it doesn't, because, you know, I guess after a while you get to know, someone asks you, "Well, how did you lose the weight?" And you start talking about keto. And as soon as you say, "Well, you got to cut out, you know, the cookies and the sugar and the bread and the pasta," and then their eyes just glaze over, and, you know, you've lost them at that point. So I just basically, when someone asked me how I lost weight and all that, I just said, "Well, I just stopped eating crap food, and that's about it."
Yeah. Well, that's kind of, so Will is joining us. So Grind with Will is on. He just came back from vacation. So hey guys, I know just about everybody on here that I've seen kind of comments have really great YouTube channels. So make sure you go out and check each other's channels out and connect with each other. It would be great. I know we all share great information, and, you know, knowledge is golden. So, you know, let's learn from each other. Let's help each other, support each other in our journeys. It'd be great. So, So,
everyone.
So how? So has your diet changed? Oh, I'm sorry. What was that?
No, I was just saying everyone's got some good information out there. Like, you know, I've talked to a lot of people recently, and I think we all wind up in the same place, but how we get there is different. So
yeah, you don't have to follow the same rules and regulations. Everybody's going to have their own little tweaks and everything else, right? And so So who are some of your favorite YouTube channels that you follow? Is there, we're talking about?
Well, you know, it's kind of shifted lately because I've been, you know, for the last, like, I've had my YouTube channel for just over 2 years now. And I guess at first it wasn't really all that serious. I wasn't spending a lot of time on it, and I wasn't consistent with it. Because I guess I found myself more as a consumer of YouTube than a creator. So I was, you know, Dr. Barry, Thomas DeLauer, Two Crazy Ketos. Those were all my sort of go-tos when I first started out. Because of the community part of it. You know, Dr. Barry he's probably one of the biggest channels that I would suggest following. But he's also, you know, it's a lot of information over there. But if there's community, I like the community of a lot of the channels, like Two Crazy Ketos and, you know, your channel lately, and Tom and Mike and Hyla, and, you know, Sana from now as well. And like, I'm finding this year, when I'm finally starting to try and be a little more serious with the channel, the biggest change has been getting to know creators like yourself and Tom and Mike and Hyla. And that's where things have changed with me. I still support the other channels. I just have shifted from being, you know, just part of the community to trying to, you know, network and support all these other channels that so that we can all start growing together.
Yeah. I would totally agree with that. That's actually really, really great. So now, you had mentioned back earlier that you had originally, when you were starting, you were tracking some ketones and stuff. Are you doing that anymore, or not doing that, or?
No, like I said, I have a meter somewhere. I don't even know where it is. I just bought a cheap meter from a drugstore kind of thing. The biggest thing in Canada here, at least at the time, I don't know what it's like now, but the test strips for ketones were so expensive. They were like over $3 a piece to test for ketones.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, that's, you know, if you're trying to really keep track of things, you're doing it at least once a day. And so, you know, I bought a few packets of them, and, you know, I tested until they ran out. And then I remember I went into the drugstore one day, and I asked the guy behind the counter, and I said, because they used to keep their ketone strips behind the counter, you couldn't even find them over like on the shelf for some reason.
Yeah.
And I asked them, you know, like, do you have the ketone strips for the meter? And they're like, didn't really even know what I was asking about at first. It was weird. But then he said, I don't think so, but we've got these. And he had like a whole box of the glucose strips.
Yeah.
Right. That I don't know. They couldn't sell them. So he just gave me, you know, 100 glucose strips, which if you have to buy those here, they're really cheap, you know, compared to ketone strips. So that's when I actually shifted from tracking ketones to tracking glucose more.
Okay.
But I only did that for a couple of months after that too, because like it was one of those things where the results I was getting from the testing was what I expected anyways, based on the way I was eating. So I just, you know, after that I put the meter away, and after the first year of weighing myself and all that, I put the scale away, and now I basically judge everything based on how I feel.
Yeah. I didn't see much value in them either. I don't people talk about, where can I get them? Should I be using them? And my advice is that's kind of a waste of time and money. So,
it's, I understand it at first. I wouldn't, you know, even if when you first start out, even those like the urine strips that you can get, which ultimately aren't all that accurate anyways, at least it's validation when you're first starting out. You know, at least it can tell you, okay, well, I'm doing the right things. I'm starting to produce some ketones. So, you know, I wouldn't suggest spending, you know, money you don't have just to do something that is not really going to benefit you in any way if you're doing the right things, like you're eating the right foods.
Yeah. Now, for me, I think I can feel myself when I'm in ketosis. I don't know about you, but there's just definitely something different, and I can kind of feel the rush of the energy. And versus when I eat something, and I know within a matter of hours too that I'm no longer, because I'm not feeling that way anymore.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. Keto Mama Michelle's in the house, so she's saying hi, Dad. So those of you who don't know, she's my daughter. So people saying hi to each other.
Yeah, it's funny when you're, you know, that I don't get the energy rush that I did when I first started keto, but it's definitely the amount of energy that I have nowadays, even 4 years later, is, I look back at the way it was when I first started. It's just night and day for sure.
Yeah. 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 So is your diet different today than 4 years ago when you started, you think, or is it about?
Yeah, I think it's less of the so-called keto foods and more just whole food. That's all it is, right? Like I haven't really changed the base of what I eat now. Obviously, I'm more focused on protein than anything else these days, but I think it's just a matter of, like I said, when I first started out, I was buying all the different, coffee creamers and all the perfect keto stuff. Like I went so far as to, being in Canada, buying things like perfect keto products. You wind up paying more in shipping than you do in the product costs to get them here. So I went as far as, there's companies that are just across the border that will receive things for you, and then you just go over the border and pick them up. Yeah. So I was doing things like that to buy keto products, right? So
yeah,
but I just don't really do that anymore. Like a lot of them are available here now through different distributors, but I don't know. I still buy Keto Brick is probably one of the only real keto products I buy anymore, because I like those ones. But
okay,
I guess that's the only way my diet's changed is I've cut out a lot of the keto baked goods and the chocolates and all those sort of replacement foods. A lot of them I've just cut those out completely.
Yeah, I found, for me anyway, just if I bake something, I can control the ingredients in them. So even if it's a sweet, at least I can control what's going into it, and I can actually usually get a lot lower carb than what I can buy it packaged.
Yeah.
I guess a good example was we just bought some brownies, and because we were going to try them for a review, and it was like 19 carbs per brownie, and I can create a recipe on my own that's 5 total carbs. And
sure. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is, you have to weigh those benefits of those keto packaged products. Okay, like they might be a lower carb product, but it really doesn't matter what it is off the shelf. It's still going to be pretty high in total carbs. And if you're tracking total carbs, it can be pretty hard to find like a packaged product that's gonna to fit within what you want.
Yeah. And for me, that's one of the reasons I'm a total carb person. I track total carbs. So it's just because of that reason. It helps me control what I'm eating and what I'm eating, consuming, so.
For sure.
Right. So I'm trying to,
like you could, when you finally realize that you could, without really trying too hard, you could turn 200 total carbs into 20 net carbs in a day, with the right products that have a lot of fiber in them. Like you can go right off the rails, and technically you might still be in ketosis, but you're still not really doing yourself any favors.
Yeah. And it doesn't, I don't know. I know it's different in like in the UK and other countries where they talk about soluble fiber and insoluble fiber and different thing. Whereas here in the US, they don't distinguish between them. It just says fiber. So, so it's perfect saying, have to work out a better system for tracking lives, using my Fitbit watch, but more lives than alarms available. So I do.
Everybody's getting into the live streams, that's for sure.
Yeah. And this has been a day where there's been, for me anyway, and I know you had talked about it, you too. It's been pretty busy. So you ever, and so Mike's talking about Steve over Series Ketos didn't like those bricks. I don't know. He did a product review of those keto bricks, and he did not give it a very good review. So,
Yeah.
the manufacturer said them more, and he said that they're growing on them. So
Yeah. The one thing with the keto bricks, and like if anyone hasn't tried them, is that the whole melting thing is a valid point, because the problem with, and like I've taken keto bricks and purposely melted them down and divided them into like 10 separate portions, because there are 1,000 calories for each brick. So if you separate them into 10 portions, that's 100 calories per portion. But as soon as you melt a keto brick down, the sodium settles in the mixture. So you wind up with some parts of it that are really salty and some of them that aren't as salty. So like they have to be really mixed. So, and I've received some, again, where I had them shipped from where Robert Sykes is, like where the manufacturer is.
Yeah.
And they got to me, I ordered them during the summer. When I got them, they had melted and then re-solidified. So I can definitely see where Steve at Serious Keto is coming from. And like I've said to anybody that asks, Keto Brick is a product that you either like or you hate. It's one or the other, because they are really heavy in sodium. So a lot of people find them really salty. I personally like them, but like I said, I can definitely understand when people don't like them.
Yeah. I mean, I think Steve actually said something about he would consider them survival food, not something he would eat on a regular basis. So
yeah, well, and that's a lot of a big portion of the people that buy keto bricks are like backpackers and hikers and stuff like that, because it's a nice small product that you can throw in your backpack, and if you're going for like a day-long hike or something, that's a quick 1,000 calories right there. So and it's proper keto macros too, so you're not getting a sugar rush from it, you're actually getting proper ingredients out of it. And that's the only reason I still support that kind of thing. There's other keto companies out there that have good products as well. It's just that's the only one that I still purchase.
I'm not gonna say there's a whole lot I use. I mean, I eat a little bit of keto chow, not a whole lot of keto chow, because I make some ice cream with it. And it's pretty rare that I get any perfect keto. Usually if it's something from Perfect Keto, it's in there, they're having their 50% off sale, and I'll get a couple of items. And then that's about it. I mean, I'll use some Kiss My Keto stuff again, but it's not a lot. And it's usually something like the MTC powder or something like that.
Sure.
Because it gets pretty expensive. Like their Nola bars, now you can pick them up at in the regular stores now, but you bought them, they were pretty pricey. The same with their collagen and some of the other things. They're pretty pricey.
Sure. Most of those products are too, and that's another knock against the keto bricks that people find, is that they're pretty expensive. And I completely agree. But yeah, just like any other, the Kiss My Keto bars or the Perfect Keto bars, or any of these bars, for what they are pretty pricey.
So Hyla's saying tracking the lives is just using her brain isn't working. So I wish there was an easier way to send up reminders and stuff. So but then again, you have to have your own life, and you have to kind of go out and do other stuff. So
absolutely.
But so you have something else going on today, right?
Yeah. Right after this, I'm going to have Dustin from Keto Simple on a live stream. So we'll just hang out. I had him on my channel doing an interview for my series like a couple of years ago when I first started out. So we've been following each other back and forth for a couple of years. So I figured, I'd bring him on for live stream. And,
him and his wife are pretty funny together, doing their product reviews. So
Yeah. No, I think that the channel's done really a lot better since he's involved, his better half kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or since she's decided because she was behind the camera for a while, like, and now she's right up there with them. So
yeah. Now, have you attended, or do you plan to attend any of these meetups or any of the conferences or anything that's going on? Or
I'd like to. I've never been to anything sort of outside of, we've had sort of keto events in my local area that I went to, but they weren't very good.
Yeah.
So I'd like to do things like KetoCon and, Ketopalooza and all that kind of stuff. It's just not something that's really that easy for me to do. Like the closest one would probably be Ketopalooza, which I think is it's Kentucky, I think. Is that Kentucky?
Yeah, I think so too.
Right. So I looked that one up, and that one is probably the closest one to me, and it would still be like, I can't remember. It's like 8 hours of driving kind of thing to get there. So it's so it would be like a full day of driving, and then obviously staying there for a weekend, and then full day of driving back kind of thing. So eventually I'd like to. It's I had probably thought about it before things shut down 3 years ago, but it's kind of it turns into a pretty big expense for a nice to do thing, I guess. So one of these days, though.
Yeah. We have the one in Las Vegas, and that's only a 5-hour drive from here, so it's not too bad. But so I may go to that one. I don't know. We'll see. We have other things going on in October, so I'm not sure whether it'll be. But I know you have to go get ready to be with Dustin. So final comments. Have you had to tell somebody new if they wanted to start a ketogenic lifestyle? What would you tell them?
I think the biggest thing for me is that, and for me, I have a pretty my personality allows me to make a change and stick to it, if I really put my mind to it. So, but I think where a lot of people find or may fail is that they don't get the community behind them that they need. So if you're not sort of starting the journey with someone directly in your life that you can use to support back and forth, I would suggest finding some kind of community online, whether it's on Facebook or on YouTube or whatever. Like even the keto community on Instagram is pretty good. It's not as good as it used to be, but I think that's really one of the first things you need to do. Like even if you're just starting to think about doing keto, get over to, Two Crazy Ketos or any of the channels of people that are in here, Hyla's channel, Mike's channel, your channel. Get in there and be active and start talking to people and ask the questions, because none of us are going to be, any one of us are going to answer questions. Like we're here to help everybody, right? So I think that's where I would start. And then the only other thing I would say is that don't get too bogged down in the details. If you go down the rabbit hole and you start watching videos like I did, you can spend too much time trying to figure out how to do it, and you don't even start. So, you just know that all you really have to do is cut out the sugar and the processed carbs, and things will go from there. So just get in there, start the journey, and then be really active, and don't be shy to ask people, here or wherever, so that you can get the information and support you need.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to let you go then, and I'm going to end the live. I want to thank everybody for coming. Actually, Rick from Twin Brooks just came in. So
see Rick there.
All right. You have a great live, and go over and check out Justin's channel. Go over and check out Jason's channel with Dustin here in about 6 minutes or so.
Something like that.
So
cool. Well, thanks for having me, Alan. It's been good talking to you, and
You too.
We'll do it again.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thanks, Jason.
Thanks. Yeah.
And